Coming up today on the Innovation Sandbox, we have the dynamic duo of data privacy. We have Brian Kordelski of Data Sentinel, and we have myself, Greg Kordelski of Prolifics. Today we're joined by my brother and his younger brother, or better half, if you will, to talk to you about data privacy and what data privacy, how it has impacts on your business, and how certain solutions can save you, certain solutions can guide you in a different direction from an organizational standpoint, and an overall strategy that we as an organization can provide you some help with. So stay tuned for Brian Kordelski and Greg Kordelski to bring data privacy front and center. So here we are again, me and my brother, working together for the last 25 years, doing something that we love to do, which is wrangle data. Something we've been doing for a long time together, off and on, separate sometimes, but we always seem to find our way back to the center, working together in the same company. So I want to introduce you to my brother, Brian. Brian has been doing this for 25 plus years. Very, very, very knowledgeable in the industry. Now he is the CRO of Data Sentinel, and I love him to death. So, Brian, let me introduce you. Take it away.
Thank you, brother. I like the idea of wrangling data. I'm down here in Austin, Texas. Greg's up in the Boston area, and anytime we get to work together, I always find it to be a pleasure. So today we're going to talk about data privacy and data privacy as it relates to the impacts of data and how it can damage your industry and your reputation, but also the positive impacts. If you do the right things, my company, Data Sentinel, as Greg mentioned, is a big partner of Prolifics. And we believe firmly that the more you know, the better you are. It's like the reading rainbow when we were little kids, Greg. The more you know, right? Everything about data and that information and how you can take care of it so that you don't have those impacts. Greg, as you know, the more you know, the better you are. You've been doing data governance and work in the data space for a long time. Came from Prolifics into Data Sentinel, and we're very much focused on data privacy. But the one thing we know is if you have good information, it will do good things for you. And if you have information that's suspect, it's going to do suspect things to you. So what is your feeling about governing data and managing data? And then we can have a conversation about how you would control bad stuff and good stuff, and we can do that together.
To answer that succinctly, I feel governing data is the main principle of any organization. If you do not govern your data, as we all know today with data breaches taking over and people doing bad things to breach contracts or breach your environment to hold you ransom for money or for whatever reason, these things all cost. They all have a nominal value, and that nominal value is generally pretty high. So to be able to maintain governance over your information, over your data that you've collected as an organization is paramount. And I find it interesting because data is very simple. It's zeros and ones. It's not difficult for people to understand where your data comes from, where your data gets disseminated to, and how it's used within the organization. It's very straightforward stuff. There's nothing difficult here. It's not a science.
I agree with you, Greg. But I think, in most organizations, you have to have rules, right? There are rules to who gets to touch things, who gets to play with things, how the data gets used. And, I was talking to hopefully a client, fingers crossed, that will stick around a lot longer than that $8 million fine. And we've seen this time and time again. So the one thing, I know I'm a bit of an over talker, but the one thing that we like to talk about at Data Sentinel with prolifics is find what's in your data, find it fast, use machine learning, use AI, use every single gun in the holster to make that mission of finding that data fast so that you can put your arms around it, you can protect it, and you can be a good citizen within your data, which leads right to what you've been doing for ages, Greg, which is being a good data governance evangelist across prolifics in your current career.
Yeah, Brian, that's right. And you wonder what these companies are trying to figure out when it comes to the size of the impact of putting in a holistic governance application. They're thinking it's bigger and more robust than it really needs to be. It's very straightforward. It starts off very simple. Know your data, know where it lives, understand who has access to it. Understand who has access to it is the biggest part, and lock it down. And these things can be done very, very, very easily. And we know the technology that's out there, and the cost that you just mentioned earlier in the millions. It's far less than that. It's 1/10 of that in general to take care of your data and make sure that you're a good steward of data. Yeah, you're taking good rules. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in today's landscape, right, Data Sentinel is one of them. We leverage things like machine learning and AI to make that job faster. You don't need as much human touch to find out what you don't know about information. And that's why we always say start with an audit, right? So what I'd like to propose for your customers that are challenged with data privacy is get in there and do an audit of your information. It sounds like the easiest thing, but it really is about taking modern innovations, AI, and getting a peek at your information so that you can instantly say, hey, I know where my data is. I know where it's protected. I know that it's safe. Or you can say the other thing, which is, hey, I have some risk here. I better take care of myself. So, I'll state for every Prolifics customer out there that has interest, Greg, and I'd love to work with you with these customers. We're more than willing to jump in and help do that audit. And then within a week's time, we're going to find out so much more about that customer's risk level. And then, of course, the conversation following that will help understand their risk tolerance and what they want to do about it.
Agreed. And then from that audit, there are things that can be taken away. So you do a simple audit, which is very straightforward, very easy task to take on. But then you become, compliant. You start using the information that you gained from that audit, and you use that into your compliancy rules, because every company needs to be compliant, whether it be California Consumer Protection Act compliant, GDPR from Europe Act, HIPAA if you're in healthcare. There's several finance acts that you need to be compliant about. But that simple audit, that simple 1 to 2 week activity can really net you the fruits of being compliant with it without spending any more money.
Sure. It's right in my tagline on LinkedIn: intelligent data makes intelligent decisions. So I think we're saying the same thing. It's all about control. I know we're getting close to the end of our chat, but I know it's all about control, protection, and informing your clients what they need to know to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's so true. I've been working with several companies, just recently. One of them is pushed their GDPR stuff as front and center to the organization, and they're so much better for doing that, because as an organization, as a university, dealing with international students, they didn't realize that GDPR carries over from Europe into the United States, no matter where you are. If you're a resident of the United States or you're a resident of Europe, if you send a kid over here and you're still a resident of Europe and your child goes to school here, all those same GDPR rules are still, applicable. And I find it really compelling for an organization to say, this doesn't apply to us. No, it does, and the ramifications are ginormous.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And, look at the stats, right? They're saying by next year, 1/2 of the entire planet will be covered by privacy regulation that defends their data. We're going through a horrible time right now with this COVID outbreak. We know how many people that are on the earth because we've been forced to count. So imagining that a law will actually protect half of the planet's data within a year is pretty crazy to think about, but I'm all for it. As a citizen of this great planet of ours, I have my information out there. it takes me far too long to remove it from somebody's website or tell somebody not to touch my data anymore. It takes me far too long to unsubscribe from emails that I don't want. It takes me far too long to shield or mask my data until something bad happens. I've had several mini breaches on my own personal ID, and I'm pretty sure you have as well. I'm all for it. Bring on the laws, protect our data, empower the corporations to do the right thing, and everyone will be happier.
And one more thing, there's a byproduct from data privacy. The byproduct is, again, you know your data, you understand your data, and you can utilize that data in many ways other than just being protective of your customers or your individuals that you're housing inside of the information that's provided to your organization is far more powerful than just from a privacy aspect. Yes, you have to be compliant, but that information can be utilized for marketing campaigns in different ways. It is far more powerful, and that all comes from a data privacy strategy.
Sure, it sure does. You're 1,000% correct, Greg. That monetization, right? Bringing forward the monetization and use of that data. When a customer trusts you and your brand, they'll let you use their data for whatever you like. You can grow your brand. You can become more successful. You can also know more about them and treat them better and stop poking at them with the wrong offer at the wrong time, right? So I appreciate this conversation. I'm glad to hear you and I have this talk. I know, when we get to family get-togethers, we're not talking about data privacy or governance. We're talking about other things, but they do come together really nicely. And I really appreciate Prolifics having me today.
Before I let you out of the box, Brian, I have a couple of questions for you. We've been working with a couple of different industries together, and I just want to ask you, what are some of the bigger impacts to data privacy to some of the different verticals of business, whether it be financial, logistics, or healthcare? Do you have some response to that?
Sure do, Greg. You didn't tell me this was the quicksand box. I thought I could get out of here anytime I liked. Actually, I'd love to talk to you about customers. So let's hit the first one, right? You've been engaged with it. I've been engaged with it. And this is a logistics company, right? They physically move things around for consumers. And as such, as a company like that, they are dealing with tons and tons of information of the high risk PII nature, right? They have information about a person and their location and their number, their phone number, probably some information about credit card information and PCI data, right? So their key concern is protecting that, because in that industry, it's all about your brand. No one will ever move something with your organization or ship something with your organization if you weren't the best, as you mentioned, the word steward and shepherd of that data, right? So the biggest thing for them is that they have so much information sitting in so many different varieties of formats, structured, unstructured, image data, pictures of the trucks, you name it, whatever it is, that their biggest challenge for our combined companies was, can you get at all of my data where it sits? Can you get at that now? If you can, and you can do it really well, we're going to be friends for a long time. So that's the one that came top of mind. And I think you and I are working on the other one together, pretty sure, Greg. And I'll flip that one back on you because you've been talking to the team, and that one's in the insurance industry, right? So I know that you get close to insurance in a lot of your other accounts, right? We've worked together on some of these before, but this one's in the insurance space for policy and life, right? So, what are the biggest challenges for those folks? I'll throw it back on you. I think whether it's health insurance, life insurance, whole lot more personal data gets played with than in auto insurance, right?
Yeah, I'll take it even a step up, a step higher than that, and that is, you mentioned it earlier, PII or PCI. So what is PII? Personal identifiable information. That's the information. It doesn't matter what vertical of business you're in. Doesn't matter whether you're a used car salesman or a dealership owner, right? Doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're in healthcare or you're working at urgent care. All of this information has liability with it. All of it has critical impact to your organization. And you have to be a good shepherd of that information. If you're not, you're going to get in trouble. So along the lines of logistics business that we were talking about earlier, anything that has PCI. So when you talk about governance as in general, governance is about knowing where the PII is. It's not about being data privacy secure and
Sure.
compliant. It's about being governance compliant. Governance is the top down. You have it's not a pyramid scheme, but you have someone at the top who's responsible for the organization, where the data all trickles down below and makes that organization wealth. Well, if that data gets breached, it always goes back to the top, and that guy at the number one spot is going to get in trouble. And so is the organization, all the shareholders that are beholden to it. So PII and personal identifiable information is the number one cause for data privacy today. Every rule, every law, every compliance that comes out of every state and every country is all about somebody having the ability to have a lawsuit brought up for any disparate reason that they feel like their information was misutilized. And that's what we're here to help you, prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and I know some people like to call those the critical data elements, the data about individuals or corporate IP or someone's diagnostic of their heart. These are all critical information for them to use. Yeah, so that's the challenge in a nutshell, right? You mentioned zeros and ones earlier, and I think you landed on it, right? Understanding data. The biggest challenge that I see is doing it fast, doing it quickly, giving people answers that they need really, really, really efficiently, so that they can make the right decisions downstream. That's the hardest challenge, but it's 2021, and computing is changing. It's actually, we've evolved enough to be able to do it. So don't be afraid of the challenge. Take it on headstrong. Turn on that data spout and get looking at the quality of the water that's coming out of your machines.
Well, like your reason why here, Brian, this is why Prolifics is talking to other organizations, because you guys do it smart. You guys have the technology, the innovation in mind. We work with other vendors that do the same. But you guys have something that's really sharp, and it can help customers understand their information much quicker than they could a year ago. Within the matter of weeks, days, if not weeks, they could have a good understanding of their information, and that's why we're having this discussion today.
Again, I really appreciate the time, and you are family, so I'll make sure my software gets to you at a really reasonable price.
Thanks. Okay, so well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for joining us today on the Innovation Sandbox, and we look forward to the next discussion we might have. Maybe it'll be about aliens attacking the planet Earth and how we can prevent that from happening with data. So I appreciate you being here and making this fun for everyone.